Others will be joining us, but I don't want to ask you to wait because we have guests on the line who have some important information for you. First of all, thank you very much for joining us. Could I ask those of you who have just joined recently, please mute your lines. Otherwise, we will have difficulty with the audio and we won't be able to hear our expert guests. If you're called upon to speak at some point, if you just then unmute and identify yourself, and then remute after you're finished. Well, first of all, thank you very much to each of you for joining us this afternoon. Bon après-midi, tout le monde, et merci d'être avec nous. I'm Perrin Beattie. I'm President and CEO of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to welcome you to the first of 3 briefings that we're hosting in partnership with the federal government. Now, all of these briefings will be recorded and will be posted on our website to be available for others to be able to watch or for you to be able to come back to. Je suis Perrin Beattie, Président et chef de la direction de la Chambre de commerce du Canada. Je suis heureux de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à cette première de 3 séances d'information que nous organisons en partenariat avec le gouvernement fédéral. Toutes ces séances d'information seront enregistrées et affichées sur notre site web. Now, during this afternoon's discussion, we're going to hear from the officials working directly on the federal employment and wage support programs designed to help small businesses and their employees get through and come out of the COVID-19 crisis in the best shape possible. The second briefing that we have planned for a later date will cover border and supply chain issues. And the third briefing will cover access to capital. Now, we'll start with a short overview of the programs from each of our government guests, and then open it up to questions using the Slido app. On your invitation, you were given information in terms of how to download the Slido app and use it. The link for your questions was sent to you before the call. Now, we'd expected to have someone on this afternoon's call to speak to the Temporary Foreign Workers Program, but learned just before the call that unfortunately nobody was available. This morning, we did have a call on the subject, and it was recorded, and it will be posted on our website. So feel free to find the information on there. Nous commencerons par un bref aperçu des programmes de la part de chacun de nos invités du gouvernement, puis nous ouvrirons la discussion aux questions à l'aide de l'application Slido. Now, before I turn to our government guests, I wanted to share with you some very good news for many SMEs announced today by the Prime Minister. Today, the federal government has responded to the pleas for more support for SMEs from the Canadian Chamber and from other organizations across Canada for an increased temporary wage subsidy program of some 75% for small businesses, retroactive to March 15th. As you recall, a little over a week ago, the Minister of Finance announced a wage subsidy program to the tune of a maximum of $25,000 over the next 3 weeks at a rate of 10% of wages. What he's talking about here is a 75% wage subsidy retroactive to March 15th. So this is exceptionally good news when so many small businesses across the country were in critical condition. The government listened and responded. I just ask everybody again to please mute your lines. We're getting some noise on the line. Now, the federal government also announced the creation of the Canada Emergency Account that will provide SMEs with loans of up to $40,000 interest-free for the first year. Under certain circumstances, $10,000 could be considered forgivable. This account, which will be underwritten by the federal government, will be offered through private financial institutions. So you want to talk to your banks to be able to access that. An additional $12.5 billion available through Export Development Canada and the Business Development Bank of Canada to assist businesses in accessing capital to keep their businesses viable. It's also been announced, and deferral of HST and GST remittances and duties and taxes on imports until June. So this is a deferral. It isn't a forgiveness of those taxes, but again, will be very helpful to small businesses in terms of their cash flow in the short term, their liquidity. Could I ask you to mute your line, please? The Prime Minister's announcement was an important step in the right direction at a time when it was urgently needed. It provides hope for thousands, for hundreds of thousands of Canadian businesses, and for millions of their employees who've been facing a very bleak future. And it will help to ensure that when this pandemic passes, Canadian businesses and their employees will be there to help restart our economy. Now I'd like to turn to our guests, and we're very grateful to each of them for being with us. And perhaps what I can do is start with our guest from Employment and Social Development Canada to provide an overview of the EI benefits available to those who are affected by COVID-19. So I'd invite them to open their mic and identify themselves and make a short presentation. We'll then go to our other government guests, and then using the Slido app, please submit your questions. We'll then go to the questions on Slido and ask our guests to respond to those. So our colleague from Employment and Social Development Canada.
Hello, so this is Benoit Cadieux here. I'm with the EI Policy Directorate at Employment and Social Development Canada. So I can definitely talk about the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that was announced earlier this week. So I'll provide a quick overview, and then maybe, I don't know how you want to structure this call. If you want to take questions right away after, if you want to let the other guests talk about their program.
What I will do is I'll invite each of the guests to speak first, then people have submitted questions using the app. I'll read the questions from the app, and then the appropriate government official will be able to respond to that if that works for you.
Perfect.
Please mute your line.
Great. So the announced earlier this week, the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, it replaces the previously announced Emergency Support Benefit and Emergency Care Benefit. So it rolls those two benefits into a single benefit. That benefit provides up to or exactly $500 per week. It's a flat amount, so everybody gets $5 to eligible workers who were affected by COVID-19. So by affected, you have to have either lost your employment temporarily or on a permanent basis due to COVID-19, or in cases where you have to stay home because you have children whose schools are closed, or if you have to take care of a family member because their care facility is closed, or if you're sick or in quarantine because of COVID. And the eligibility criteria are fairly straightforward. You have to have made at least $5,000 in 2019 or in the 52 weeks before applying. You have to be a Canadian resident in Canada, and you have to be 15 years of age or older. And the way it works, it's available to EI eligible workers and non-EI eligible workers, including employed workers. And for applying, workers would apply on a 4-week block basis. So every 4 weeks, they would then reattest that they still meet the criteria for the benefit. In order to be eligible, workers have to be without employment income for at least 14 consecutive days within each 4-week block period that they're applying for. The benefit amount, as I said, it's $500 per week or $2,000 every 4 weeks, for a maximum of $8,000 over the 16 weeks that the benefit is available to each worker. The benefit is retroactive back to March 15th and is available up until October 2nd. And I mean, those are the main details. Workers would be applying through a web page. The idea is to roll out the application. We're aiming for April 6th. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. And we'll come back then when we get back to the questions. Another element the government had previously announced is changes to the work sharing program. And I'm wondering whether we can invite our government colleague to identify himself, herself, and to address that.
Certainly. Hi, everyone. My name is Rose Young, and I work on the work sharing program, and I'm also joined by my colleague, Katie Alexander. Work sharing, first of all, I should say thank you for allowing us to spend time with you today. I know everyone is busy responding to the situation. We appreciate being able to share information we have on our programs and the recent changes and announcements. It's really important that we get information out to everyone, so this is very much appreciated to give us this venue. With respect to work sharing, it is a program that's available to help both employers and employees avoid layoffs. Typically, it's when there's a temporary decrease in business activity that's beyond the control of the employer. So basically how it works is EI benefits, work sharing benefits, are provided to eligible employees when they agree to reduce their normal working hours and share the remaining work that is available for employees. So I would underline that it is a tripartite agreement between the Government of Canada, so the Canada Employment Insurance Commission in particular, employers and employees. And the goal of the program is to help employers retain qualified and experienced workers and to avoid having to recruit and train new employees, while at the same time helping employees to keep their jobs and maintain their work skills. So getting to the recent measures, there were temporary special measures that were announced on March 11th. These measures are effective now and they're in place until March 14th, 2021. And basically what we're trying to do is expand eligibilities within the program. So for example, typically work sharing agreements are a maximum of 38 weeks. We've extended that to a maximum of 76 weeks in response to the impact of the COVID-19 situation. The second change that we've made is around the mandatory cooling off period. So there is a mandatory requirement that employers serve a cooling off period between agreements because we don't want work sharing to become a part of the ongoing business cycle. It is for unique situations. In this particular time, we've decided to waive this so that if you have employers that have been using work sharing, they can be eligible right away to enter into a new agreement. And the other thing we've done is around recovery plan requirements. So the recovery plan is an important part of work sharing because its goal is to help the business get back to where they were before the unanticipated downturn. So for the recovery plan, it's been reduced to basically a single line of text with the application form because given the current situation around COVID, it's really difficult, we understand that, for employers to be able to specify their plans for getting back to business as usual. We kind of have to see how the situation is playing out. And lastly, the other change that's been made is around requirements and expanded eligibility in that employers who typically it's 2 years, we've loosened that so that now it's a requirement that's been in business for 1 year to again to more allow flexibilities so that more employers and workers can be helped. So that in a nutshell is work sharing and the temporary special measures, and I welcome any questions you may have.
That's great. Thank you very much, Rose. That was a great overview. Can we turn then to the Canada Emergency Response Benefit? Invite our colleague from government to speak to that. And for those of you on cell, if you are leaving, please don't put us on hold or else we're apt to get beeping. Could we please hear from our colleague to speak about the Canada Emergency Response Benefit?
Yes, it's Benoit here. I was just waiting for the noise to go away. Sorry.
Thanks, Benoit.
I guess just provided an overview of the emergency response benefit just now, but I can add that there was another measure that I didn't speak about that was also announced this week, which is waiving the requirement to provide medical notes for EI applicants for those that are applying to sickness benefits. So that's to alleviate the burden on the medical system and to prevent people from having to present themselves at medical clinics or to a doctor for the purpose of obtaining a medical note to apply to EI.
Thank you, Benoit. And were there other representatives from Government Online who wanted to present? Okay. Thank you. Then let's turn to your questions. We'll go to the Slido app. I will read them out, and then we'll invite the appropriate officials to respond to those. First, from Ken Cobley from the Alberta Chambers of Commerce. Any idea how the Government of Canada will handle the 75% wage subsidy, given the normal remittance is only 20% of gross payroll? Will CRA do a direct deposit to employers? I don't know whether our colleagues on the line are able to respond to that. Benoit,
it's Benoit here. I'm certainly not able to respond to that. I don't know, Rose, if you are.
No, sorry, that's unrelated to work sharing, so I'm not able to take that call.
Okay, the announcement was just made today. We will try to get you the information. I know, Ken, that you'll be talking a little bit later with Trevin Stratton, who's our chief economist and head of policy. Trevin was getting all of the information and should be able to answer that question at that time, but we'll get it out to all of you as well. Rory from the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber. As the wage subsidy is considered taxable income, will not-for-profits such as our chamber still qualify? Yes. Now, folks, what I need to do, I want to stick to the subject matter that we have experts here for and come back to the other information. When we have that, we'll push it out to you. But I want to take advantage of the fact that we have our experts online, and so I'll be picking questions that are directly relevant to them, if that's okay. We want to keep our employees but don't have any income coming in. Can we use CERB to keep employees on and have to work on a voluntary basis?
Well, it's Benoit Cadieux here. I just have to note that one of the eligibility requirement is that you have to be without employment income for 14 consecutive days. So I think employers have to keep that in mind. So that's 14 consecutive days within each 4-week block that they're applying for. So employers can definitely keep employees on, but they have to keep in mind that the employee has to be without income for that amount of time.
Okay. What is the difference between EI and CERB? Is one better than the other for employees?
So the emergency response benefit, it's been put in place to respond to a specific situation. I wouldn't characterize one as better than the other necessarily. They both serve different purposes. The idea is that some workers would be advantaged by one versus the other, but they are there to respond to a specific circumstance. And the emergency response benefit is being developed to be accessible by most workers. So it's really a different type of support benefit compared to EI.
Okay, thank you. For the work sharing program, can we set it up now and not wait until April 6th because we're starting to run out of cash?
Hi there, it's Rose. So for work sharing, the measures are already implemented. So absolutely, people can apply for the standard work training program and the temporary special measures now.
Okay. Are full-time workers over 60 who are collecting CPP or a pension from previous employment still eligible for CERB?
So there's a lot of details that we are continuing to nail down on the CERB. As you may appreciate, it's being developed extremely quickly. So all this information will be released in the coming days.
Okay. Will applicants to CERB require an ROE? If so, what code? And can they take it as unpaid leave with a written agreement between the employee and the employer?
Again, the application process is continuing to being developed. Right now, the thinking is that an ROE will not be required. However, for those employees who have been laid off temporarily by their employers, we certainly encourage the employer to issue an ROE anyways, because if they do want to apply for EI later on, they will have that ROE.
Does the term self-employed people also include owners of small corporations? If not, what can they do?
It does include owners of small corporations.
Good. Someone who works multiple part-time jobs may have lost some of their employment, but not all. How are they going to be helped? They wouldn't qualify for CERB.
You're correct. They would not qualify because one of the requirements is to have really an income, $0 in income for a period of 14 days. There may be other supports available to them, but not the emergency response benefit.
If employees typically get more per week for EI, the CERB is offering $2,000 per month. Will they get the EI amount or the CERB amount?
Those are all details that are being finalized as we speak. More information on that will be coming out in the coming days.
How does the wage subsidy work for those who submit payroll remittance quarterly? They'll have to submit January to March on the 15th of April.
Sorry, I must have misunderstood the question. Is it possible to repeat?
Gladly, Benoit. It was, how does the wage subsidy work for those who submit payroll remittance quarterly? They will have to submit January to March on the 15th of April.
So from my understanding, it sounds like a question that's not necessarily related to the emergency response benefit.
Yeah, we'll have to get that from the Department of Finance or CRA.
I would recommend that, yeah.
Okay. How do we prevent part-time workers from claiming they need to self-isolate and not working as the CERB pays them more money?
So workers that quit their job voluntarily would not be eligible. So you have to have lost your employment or be unable to work really for a reason that's no fault of your own, and that's related to the COVID-19 situation.
So someone falsely claiming that they have to self-isolate would be fraudulently making a claim?
Correct.
Okay. Do I understand correctly that tax on the CERB will not be taken at the source, so the full $500 will be received and recouped through income tax?
That's a detail that we still need to figure out.
Sales of business didn't go down, but other circumstances related to COVID are forcing the business to reduce salaries by 20%. Would work sharing be available?
Rose, I think that's a question for you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Katie, are you on the line and wanting to take that question?
Sorry, could we get the question repeated, please?
Sales of business didn't go down, but other circumstances related to COVID are forcing the business to reduce salaries by 20%. Would work sharing be available?
Absolutely. So it's Katie Alexander speaking. We've reduced the need for employers to provide any financial documentation as part of their application, because we do understand the impact of COVID-19 has struck businesses very quickly. So if employers are signaling that they have or will have a reduction in business because of COVID-19, they would be eligible to consider work sharing.
Thank you. We have students from other countries working full-time. They are not Canadian citizens, but have the right to work in Canada while studying. Do they qualify?
So international students may qualify. one of the requirements is that you have to be a resident of Canada and be currently living in Canada.
Thank you.
You
If
don't
an
have to be
employee
a citizen.
Sorry, thank you. If an employee is nervous about coming back to work because of COVID, and I use code N, leave of absence on the ROE, will they still qualify for employment insurance?
If it's unless they're in quarantine, which is prescribed to them, they would not be eligible.
To clarify, if I lay off my staff tomorrow, they can apply but have to be without income for 14 days before CERB will begin to flow to them. Is that correct?
So that's a detail that we're working on. It may be that when you apply, if it's forward looking, then you could get the payment right away. If it's backwards looking, so in other words, you apply after the 4 weeks, you would get the payment after your 4 week block. That's still a detail we have to figure out.
Thank you. We have employees on work permits who are leaving the country to go home. When they come back, will they have to wait 90 days again for MSP?
I'm not familiar with the MSP program.
Is the person who asked the question on the line?
No, but I may have some information on that. Kate Dalglish with Compass Rose Group. I'm originally from BC. MSP is a British Columbia provincial program, and the government of British Columbia has announced that they will be waiving the wait times for people who return to reside in British Columbia during COVID.
Great. Kate, thank you very much for that. That was very helpful. So many various sources of information. Is the Government of Canada developing easy to read, frequently asked questions sheet that houses all the information and steps for employers and employees? I suspect the answer to that is yes, but Benoit?
We certainly are. One thing we want to make sure that is that we land on the details around the measure so that we give the right information out. We don't want to give information out too quickly and then it's the wrong information. So we want to make sure that the measures, we're comfortable with the design and the details of the measure so that we get the right information out to people. But over the next few days, there will be a lot more information being released.
Thank you. Is there a minimum of hours required to apply for CERB?
It is not an hours-based requirement. It's really an income-based. So you really have to only meet the $5,000 or more income threshold.
Can you confirm if a person applied for EI benefits, but the application has not been processed, do they have to reapply for the CERB? And how and when can people apply?
So if somebody has applied on or after March 15th, they do not need to reapply. Their application will be processed as a emergency response benefit automatically.
Okay. Are not-for-profits eligible for work sharing? I'm sorry, did you hear that?
The question was, are not-for-profits? So under the standard program, currently, no, not-for-profits are not eligible for work sharing. Katie, feel free to jump in if I'm misspeaking.
That's correct. The department is, however, looking at different ways that we can further streamline the program. So if there are any updates to provide on this, we will keep you updated.
Okay, thank you. Is CRA officially the delivery agent for CERB and not EI?
So we're working with CRA on the delivery approach. What we're thinking of is that it's going to be a one portal where everybody goes to apply, and then individuals, depending on whether they're EI, they fall within the EI stream or not, they would be directed to the right location. But those are details that we still have to be, that we're still working on.
Thank you. If an employee is laid off, but there are minimal hours 1 day per week, they won't be eligible for CERB, but they could apply for EI and claim minimum earnings. Is that correct?
That is correct. They could apply for EI. They would be eligible for EI.
Can someone using the work sharing program still get the 75% wage subsidy? Can you upload that?
So that is a very great question. I think given the quickness of these measures being announced, that's something that we need to look into. But we don't have information on that right now.
Okay, thank you. And with any of these areas, I think everybody understands that these programs are still in development. We are pleased to push the information back out to business. If you can supply it to us, we will make sure that it goes up on the website and is made available as widely as possible. I want to keep my staff on, but cannot maintain them at full time. So is CERB the best option for me?
So I just didn't catch the first half of the question. If you don't mind repeating.
I want to keep my staff on, but cannot maintain them at full time. So is CERB the best option for me?
So the CERB is really for the employees, and they really, again, I have to stress, they really have to be without any income for 14 consecutive days. So the employer would have to work around those constraints.
Under CERB, can my employee apply for it but keep working for me without being paid for a remote worker that I might have to lay off?
That sounds like a labor law issue there, but theoretically, yes, they could.
What are the basic steps for enrolling for a work sharing program? Rose,
Katie, did you want to go over the process for applying for work sharing?
Yeah, sorry, with all the beeps, it was sort of hard to cut out there. So it's Katie. Yes, actually, with the revised streamlined process for work sharing, an applicant can go to our website and take the form. It's EMP 5100. That is the work sharing application. You will notice it's quite a lean application now. We removed approximately 10 questions that were no longer required and are asking only the bare minimum from employers who are applying. As well, employers would have to fill out EMP 5101, which is what we call attachment A, and that is simply a list, well, an accurate list of the employees that will be part of the work sharing unit. Those two forms, once completed, a signature is no longer required, simply a name on each application, recognizing that getting hard signatures right now is challenging, can be submitted to any one of the Service Canada centers listed on the website. We are now accepting applications by email. So they will be received instantly by the department. You will receive a notification that the application was received into the mailbox, and then we will begin processing the application as quickly as possible.
Katie, thank you. If someone is laid off and not eligible for CERB because they have another job, are they eligible for EI?
Currently, they would be eligible for EI. How it's going to work after the CERB is rolled out remains to be decided.
Okay, thank you. A suggestion for us to pass along to our government colleagues. It says people calling in are being put on hold for hours. Please ask government staff to implement best practices. Option to turn off hold music and leave phone number for callback. I pass that along to you for whatever it's worth for your consideration.
Hi, it's Katie again. I will add to address some of the feedback we've received about long wait times at call centers. We have created another inquiry center for work sharing. I'd be happy to share that email address around with you. It's a general delivery mailbox that is monitored 7 to 7 every single day, that is addressing questions and sharing program information about work sharing.
Katie, that's very helpful. Do you have it with you that you can just give it to folks now?
Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a complicated web address, so I can send it to Susanna and hopefully she could share it with participants.
We'll do that.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. It's actually Susanna. Thanks, Katie. That email address is in the FAQ document that's posted on our website, so it's already up there.
Sorry, in which FAQ document, Susanna?
On our COVID-19 resource page on our website.
Okay, thank you. Will workers be eligible who expect seasonable May to October jobs that don't actually open due to COVID-19? Would they apply without an ROE?
So again, those are details that we're looking into right now. That's information that's going to be released in the coming days.
Does an employer need to issue an ROE if they're going to just furlough an employee and they go on CERB?
Technically, no, but if there's any chance that the employee wants to apply to EI afterwards, then it's a best practice for the employer to issue an ROE.
Can a temporary laid-off employee who will be qualified for CERB also get a subsidy from their employer to work a few days a week?
So the issue of employer top-ups or employer subsidies are being examined right now. Those, again, are details that are going to be released later.
Okay. If you're a business owner who takes a wage or salary from the business, does not pay into EI, but is taking a taxable income, do you still qualify for the CERB?
Do you mind repeating the question?
If you're a business owner who takes a wage or salary from the business, but does not pay into EI, but are taking a taxable income, do you still qualify for the CERB?
So if this person's income, again, falls to zero, then they would be. Thank
you. Okay, I've got a little bit of difficulty with the next one. What the code I assume it is, what is the code we use when we lay off employees at a restaurant due to coronavirus? Is I think what the question is.
That would be a question more. I'll take it down. It's more for our Service Canada colleagues. It's more operational in nature. So I'll take it down and commit to getting back to you. Okay, thank you. Using the work-share program, 75% wage subsidy or the $40,000 loan from the federal government, does that disqualify us from later hiring through SWILP or CSJ?
Hi, it's Katie. I think we're still working through sort of all the interconnectivities of this new announcement. So this will definitely be one we'll have to get back to you on.
Thanks, Katie. The government says that there's a deferral of HST, GST payments to June. Can I assume, sorry, that just disappeared here. Okay, that just disappeared on me. Do you need to be up to date with your taxes as a business or as an individual with the CRA to qualify for the CERB? That's an interesting question. I'm lucky that CRA isn't on the line. They may be wondering who submitted that question.
Not speaking on behalf of CRA here, I would say no. But CRA may have a different view on this one.
Thanks, Benoit. If you're a business owner who takes dividends, do you still qualify for the CERB?
Dividends would be considered investment income. So while these details are still being worked on, I would assume not.
Brad Butt asked the question. I believe staff said that not-for-profits are not eligible for the work-sharing program. Are chambers of commerce considered not-for-profits? My understanding is yes. What consideration is being given to self-employed people and businesses who have not fully shut down but have lost substantial revenue and are struggling?
So this is exactly the target group that the CERB is aiming to respond to. Self-employed people, if they've lost their job even temporarily because of the COVID-19 situation, they would be eligible for the CERB.
Okay. If an employee is receiving CERB instead of EI, can the employer top up?
So like I mentioned earlier, that's a detail we're looking into, and more information is going to come on that in the coming days.
Okay. Federal and provincial programs usually say that they can't be stacked for maximizing a subsidy. Do any of these new programs have any restrictions that we should bear in mind? Are there stacking restrictions on these?
This is something we're working on with our provincial colleagues right now. So again, that's information that's going to come out shortly.
Okay.
Hi there, it's Rose. With respect to work sharing benefits, while they are EI benefits, they do not impact a person's eligibility for EI regular benefits or special benefits. They're a separate benefit under the EI program.
Thank you. Thanks, Katie. To confirm, temporary foreign workers on a visa are eligible for CERB?
If they meet the eligibility requirement, yes. So if they are residing in Canada, if they have had the $5,000 or more of income in the previous year or in the 52 weeks before applying, and if they are 15 years of age or older, they would qualify.
What happens when someone has a full-time job and self-employment on the side? Do they apply for EI and the CERB?
You cannot get both EI and the CERB at the same time. So it's one or the other.
Thanks, Benoit. Are these benefits taxable as income?
Yes, they would be. At least for the CERB, yes.
Sean Lester from Iqaluit. Clients have more than two companies but utilize the SBD in one company. Does this stop them from accessing the 75% wage reduction in the companies that do not use the SBD? I'm not sure whether you folks are able to answer that.
I'm not, no. Rose?
Sean, we'll have to try to get you the information for that from CRA or from finance. How are payments calculated with work sharing?
Katie, are you able to take that one?
Sorry, Rose, I missed that one.
How
It's
are,
around the payment of work sharing. Yeah, how are work sharing benefit payments calculated?
So it would depend. That's a bit more of a complicated question. I'd be happy to share some written material on that. It's part of the FAQs, but essentially the benefits depend on the weekly average earnings prior to work sharing, and then would depend on the eligibility of the worker based on EI regulations and rules.
Okay, thank you. For CERB, if approved, our employees are asking if it is $2,000 per month per application or based off of your income from your ROE.
It is not based on your income from your ROE. It is not income based at all. So everybody gets the same amount. And it's $2,000 for every full week block that you're applying for.
Thank you. Are university students who worked last summer eligible for the CERB now?
Again, if they meet the eligibility criteria, they would be eligible.
What consideration is being given to business owners who have not shut down completely and do not qualify for EI and CERB but have lost significant income, significant revenue? I think, again, you probably can't answer that, Benoit. It goes back more to, I guess, to the announcement that was made today by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance of the wage subsidies.
Right,
And
there's a number of other numbers that have been announced over the last week that would support somebody in that situation.
If both business owners take wage and salary from the same company and are married owners, and both owners eligible for CERB, or is it for the business only?
That's a tough one. I would think if both their salaries fall to zero, again, they could be eligible.
Okay. To make sure, for greater clarity, none of the employees' signatures is required for Annex A of work sharing. Katie, maybe?
Hi there, it's Rose. I'm not sure if maybe Katie got called into something else. So as she was saying, typically, yes, signatures are required for work sharing, but under these circumstances where it's hard to get actual signatures, we would accept through the email someone kind of giving their signature sign off through that email, but it is something where we would need to know that both the employer side and the worker side is in agreement to go into the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Can you use work sharing in companies that reduce the time of their workers by 50%, but each worker does a different job?
Hi, it's Katie. Thanks, Rose, for covering that last one. Work sharing, an employer can have multiple work sharing units that are usually and normally grouped around the same type of occupation. So I think the answer to your question is yes. We also consider unique micro businesses where there may just be one or two of each occupation to be eligible as well.
Thank you. Are people who were previously not working but cannot find work because of COVID-19 still eligible for CRB, such as students?
Sorry, I was on mute. So those are the kinds of details that we're working on right now. More information on that will be released in the coming days.
Okay. How about people who are getting laid off and are only weeks away from maternity leave? Can they apply for the emergency benefit?
Yes, they could.
Many businesses are still waiting for their access or authentication code for ROE Web. Is that expected to come in the mail to the business?
That's an operational question that I'll leave for my Service Canada colleagues. I'll take it down and we'll commit to getting back to you.
Okay. If a business collects EI, would they have to claim any outstanding invoices from previous work that come in while collecting EI?
Can you repeat that?
If a business collects EI, would they have to claim any outstanding invoices from previous work that come in while collecting EI?
I'm not sure I understand the question, to be honest.
Okay, is the person who asked that question online? Okay, let's move on then to the next one. What is the best mechanism for foreign workers on closed work permits who have been temporarily laid off to get support due to business closure?
So again, if they meet the eligibility criteria and they are still in Canada, they could be eligible for the CERB.
Do employers have to pay for vacation pay before an employee qualifies for CERB?
No, they do not.
What is the best, oops, I just disappeared here. The work sharing website, sorry? The work sharing website does say that for a not-for-profit to be eligible, they need to, but our speaker suggests an NFP isn't eligible. Can we get clarity? I don't quite follow the question, but it has to do, Benoit, with, or rather Katie, I guess, with the question of eligibility of not-for-profits for work sharing.
Yeah, so there are eligibility criteria that have to be met. As mentioned, we will be looking to ensure that if there's any further flexibility, we are considering that within the department. So there would be subsections of not-for-profits not currently eligible for work sharing, and perhaps that's where we should be more clear on the web.
Okay, thank you. When will CERB work share applications be available? Did I see something that the applications would be available this coming Monday?
So the timelines for the CERB that we're working towards is a launch around April 6th, and more details around the process for applying will be released before then.
Thank you, Benoit. What is the best mechanism for foreign workers on closed work permits who've been temporarily laid off to get support due to business closure?
So I think that's a repeat question, but like I said, they would be eligible if they are still in Canada and they meet the eligibility criteria.
And then finally, we work in construction and we were trying to keep our employee. Now they need 14 days before having access to CERB.
They need 14 days without income. Yeah.
Yes. Another question here. If employees are on EI because of COVID, are they eligible to be part of work sharing groups?
Sorry, is the question if someone is currently ill with COVID-19, are they still eligible to be part of a work sharing unit?
That's not clear, Katie. It says if employees are on EI because of COVID, and I'm not sure what that means because they were sick with it or because of shutdowns because of it, are they eligible to be part of work sharing groups?
So if an employer, and I will sort of try to answer this as globally as possible, recognizing we can certainly support employers on unique situations. If an employer has identified someone as part of their work sharing unit and they are part of an agreement for work sharing, but are off and need to be off sick for COVID-19 or a planned shutdown, for example, they update the type of reporting that they do so that they can certainly come back to work sharing benefits, but during the time that they're receiving other benefits, they would not be reporting as part of the work sharing unit.
Thank you for that. Those are all the questions that we have submitted. Unless there are other questions that people have, I think I can thank our colleagues from government. We're extremely grateful to you. We realize how busy you are and the number of demands on you. And we are very grateful for the fact that you're trying to supply information to us when programs are still being designed. But I think also it's probably useful for you to be able to hear from participants online about the types of questions that people are asking. So thank you all for being part of this discussion. We will try to get answers to questions that you may have asked that we haven't been able to answer today, and to put them up on the website to make them available for any of you to be able to access. If there are other questions you have, please feel very, very free to send them in to us. And do remember that we've got a couple of more of these webinars that are planned in coming days. And we would certainly welcome you to join us for that as well. With regard to the Prime Minister's announcement today, for which we should be extremely grateful, it was a very important and very positive announcement. We will be posting information on that as we have details available on it. And we certainly would encourage you to share it with businesses in your community. So with that, let me thank you all for participating in this and wish you a good day.